Hello, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, and wherever you are in this beautiful wide world, welcome to the Global Sales Leader Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Cooper. I'm a sales strategist, sales coach. I'm also a sales relationship coach. So it's all about inspired people, inspired teams, and to deliver better results through relationships that actually last. This series is all about insightful leaders, sales tech, ed tech, and like so much more. And I'm delighted to have a really wonderful guest today. Like, I've tried to spend a few moments practicing his name, but look, if I get it wrong, don't blame me. I'm English, so it's Jeroen Corthout. Is that correct?
Almost. It was only the end. It's Corthout, but it's indeed Jeroen Corthout. Yeah.
Oh, we got there. We got there in the end. So that's all cool. So I appreciate that. So it's all about gifted leaders that employ brilliant and exceptional, intriguing strategies to great effect to help organizations and people grow. I always like to feel that this is about golden nuggets of knowledge so we can all feed forward and we can all help and inspire people to grow. So you're welcome today. So thank you very much for being a guest today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So I've looked at your background that you sent me via LinkedIn. You've had a little bit of an eclectic background in sort of company directors, managing partners of businesses, co-founders, and your latest business, and you're CEO of a company called Salesflare. And I think you're going to tell me a little bit more about that as we go along. But can you describe to me in a little bit more detail to your life to date to where you are right now? So just so the audience can get a little bit more of a richer background to who you are.
Yeah. I would say who I am is probably a builder, someone who likes to build stuff for other people. That's how I'd summarize it. So when I was 15, 16, for instance, that was the first moment that I actually started building for others and got some money for it. I was building websites. It was a lot of fun. It was like the beginning of people getting websites, and I built them in Flash, which is now killed off. Yeah. But that was a lot of fun, and that was what first sort of got me into entrepreneurship. Because before that, I was making stuff, but I was, as a kid, like making a camp in the woods or creating some kind of. At some point I did drawing. At some point I did, whatever. Lots of different things. But then the websites that got me dreaming, you do it with others, and it gives this whole other dimension to things. So I'm sort of a builder for others. And I studied engineering. That's always been, let's say, in the family. Let's say my dad is sort of a hardcore engineer, and we were always on the track to study engineering. I studied electronical engineering first with business management because I knew I wanted to do something with business next to it. I switched to biomedical engineering because I wanted to do something more impactful. And it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot extra also because all of a sudden you don't only span engineering, you span medical stuff as well. Super interesting. But then when I went applying for jobs, I never found anything where I could both be a builder and work with people. And I then decided to do business school to be able to do that, because as an engineer, they only offer you engineering jobs. And if you want to do something else, they're like, I don't know. They're very wary about it. But then when I did business school afterwards, I went straight into marketing. So I figured the best thing was, in the healthcare industry, get a marketing job, because then I would learn how it was to put products in the market and all that. I ended up doing marketing at a pharma company called Baxter, big US pharma company. It wasn't what I expected it to be. My scope of influence was very, very small. I basically got brochures, translated them, taught the salespeople how to use them, made a little website here or there or something, and that was sort of it. I didn't do that for long. I actually then rekindled my website knowledge. I found out at Baxter that nobody really knew how to build websites in pharma. They were all marketers, almost were former salespeople, so not really like digitally savvy.
Yeah.
And everybody came to me, and then I figured, oh, this could be my job. I could I could help pharma become digital. And then I actually met a guy. Life happens. And he had a company that already did that. And he had been doing it for years. He said, join us, we'll teach you everything. And then whatever you see, what you want to do. I did that for 4 years. I learned an enormous amount. It was the first time I was also officially a salesperson. I was an account manager there. So I would talk to pharma companies. I would find out what their issues were, what they wanted to do, where they wanted to take stuff. I would draft up proposals out of nothing, create budgets, made sure the projects happened, budgeted, the whole picture, which was an incredible learning experience. And then from there, it kept itching to start a company. So I tried a bunch of stuff. A few of those are on my LinkedIn profile. A few of those are not. And Salesflare is actually the first company that is actually a company. It's actually like successful with a team, and we employ people and all that. So.
The question I was going to ask actually, and I should have asked, is whereabouts are you in the world today? Because it's I love speaking to people from different parts of the world, and I know you're not in Ireland, and I know you're not in England. So whereabouts actually are you?
Yeah, I'm across a few seas in Antwerp, in Belgium.
Oh, lovely. And how long have you been there for?
In Antwerp itself, or in Belgium?
Yeah. Oh, Belgium, yeah.
In Belgium, I'm actually Belgian, so most of my life. I think we moved back to Belgium because I was born in the US.
Okay.
My parents were there. I think we moved back when I was 10 months, if I'm not mistaken. So
the question I was thinking of is, how did you get to that point of going, this is my passion? What were the sort of the anchor points along the way that went, I need to do something? I've actually found my sort of my role in life, and this is what I aspire to do.
I think it's something that grows on you progressively, and it's not one moment in time or something. You learn along the way, and I'm still learning. I read a lot, I do stuff, and then I learn what I like to do, and I always get a little closer. It's good because I'm also getting older at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't think there was ever really a moment where there was this huge light bulb going off. It was also a struggle to find, for instance, you want to start a company, but what are you going to do?
Of course,
that's been weighing on me for, I think, a few years even. But then when I got started, you do one thing, and then you meet people, and then you see another issue, and then the one thing makes the other thing happen. That's some of the surprising stuff in life, is just something you did many years ago might influence now. Like today, for instance, this morning I had a call with someone who was introduced to me by one of the kids that used to be in a camp. Like I did an adventure camp. I was a leader at an adventure camp, and that kid was there. And now he introduces me to someone which might actually be a valuable business relationship. So in life, you just don't know. And it's a constant search, finding out where you fit, how things are going to work out. So
that's also quite interesting. I'm always fascinated by how people had that moment of that light bulb moment, or that moment of going, this is what I want to do. So I'm always intrigued by that, especially in leadership, and how people are actually facing that. And how do you think people are facing sort of the challenges right now and working towards pivoting in a sort of a new direction? Because we've been involved in this COVID thing all over the world right now, and it's we have to pivot in the right way to make sure that we're working. So how do you do that, and how do you see that?
Personally, I'm very blessed to not have a lot of issues with COVID. I didn't have any close relatives dying, which is I'm very glad for
Yeah.
that. Our business has been doing really well over the last year, so I don't have to complain either. I mean, if I would have a restaurant business now, I would be probably devastated. I don't have a B2B business, and it's online and it's SaaS. I mean, it's a good place to be right now. So very glad about that. Emotionally, there's some stuff here and there, but really, it's I would say first world problems. Being all day at home, it's sometimes the one day is a bit very similar to the previous day, let's say.
So
So
how's your leadership style changed over the last 12 months is more of the direct question.
Not very much either. The main thing we had to change was the way we internally communicate. We made that way more systematic. Like we used to be together in an office.
Yeah.
And we sort of relied on that for our communication. Like communication would happen because we were together. But then all of a sudden we weren't together. We were all in different places. And then we noticed how dysfunctional it actually was. A lot of it was working through chaos, let's say.
Yeah.
And we, in the first few months of the pandemic, we changed a lot of things. We really have processes for all the communication right now, so we just can't not communicate. It all flows through the system. And I actually have a blog post on that. If anyone is interested, I think it's if you type Salesflare and manage remote team in Google, you'll find it. I detailed a bunch of things there that we changed. It's probably not really worth it to go into.
No, I'm actually quite interested in that. So because of the listeners and they're all into sales leadership and business leadership, if you can give us some sort of top end highlights about what you actually did, because that could actually help others.
Yeah. Okay, a few tips for communication to flow easily. Yeah, first of all, we do a stand-up meeting. It's a very basic thing, but I'm still going to promote it because it's quite essential. It does a few things. We all get together on a call at 9:30 in the morning, and we say what we did the previous day and what we're going to do that day. This makes that everybody knows what everybody else is going on. You can sort of connect on that. It also makes that you have to reflect yourself about the previous day.
The dog in the background's helping you out there, aren't they?
Yeah. And my wife is trying to make the dog quiet, but she has something against black dogs, and I can see there's a black dog in front of the window. It's a childhood trauma of my dog. Sorry for that.
So yeah, if you'd like to continue on with that, because
what was I saying? Stand-up meeting. Yeah. So it's a good communication moment. Like I remember working at Baxter and wondering what's this person next to me doing and what's the other person doing. I had no idea. If we would have done a stand-up meeting, I would know from everybody what they were doing, and we could better align. This is one. Second, it helps you to align yourself as well, because you actually are forced to plan your day and to reflect on the previous one, which is an immense help. It's a really basic productivity hack, extremely basic, but it makes such a big difference if you know what you're going to do in a day. You just have a bullet point list. I'm going to do that, and you know what to work on. It's productivity times I don't know how much. Then another thing, we used to get a lot of people in meetings. We stopped that. We started seeing that, especially when we're all on Zoom together, that if we're more than 3 in a meeting, it's usually maximum 3 people having a discussion. It's often 2, but 2 is too little. 3 is good because then you have 3 voices in a discussion.
Yeah.
If we're 5 in a meeting, 2 people are doing nothing. They just and they very quickly disengage, especially if the meetings take a bit longer. We also put a maximum length to meetings, but that's another thing. But then the thing is, if you only involve 3 people in a meeting, or you keep the meeting small at least, then you want to have that information flow through the company. And we do two things. Well, first of all, we write meeting minutes as we go. We open Google Docs on the left, have Zoom on the right, and we type out every decision that we make, even if we decide not to make a decision. It's also sort of bullet point structure. But that becomes a lot of information, right? You cannot tell people every time, like, this is what we discussed in a meeting. So what we do additionally is at the end of the meeting, we reserve a bit of time, 10, 15 minutes, to write down what we discussed in that meeting, very short, the stuff that other people should know. And that goes in Slack, which we use for our team communication. It's like for people who use Teams, it's like Teams, but better.
I've used it. It's a very good resource.
Yeah.
The question I was actually going to ask you in between that, sorry for the flow there, but now you're sort of scaling up and you're probably going to employ a lot more people. Where is the learning? Because sometimes in growth mode, and I've been involved in lots of companies, where is the key points to keep knowledge, but also to keep the growth of knowledge as well, so everyone understands, but they can also learn from either failure and also understand how to move forward in the right direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think a lot of that comes from developing simple processes and keeping improvement going there. So additionally, next to the things I already mentioned, we have a bi-weekly team meeting in which we discuss what went well in the past 2 weeks and what didn't go so well. And based on that, we then see what didn't go well. And then we start fixing these kind of things, and we fix it in a systematic way. It's not like, how are we going to fix what happened, but how are we going to fix this? How can we make sure this doesn't happen in the future? And that very, very often involves changing a process a little bit, or focusing a bit more on that, or focusing a bit more on that. And that the continuous improvement in that sense is something that is essential. We also have a bi-weekly growth meeting for the business team. And then we have a weekly sprint meeting for the developers, where it goes much more in the specificities there, and we do operational planning. And next to that, we also have strategic meetings and all that, but I won't go into that. What did I want to say? Yeah, and then it's having these processes, and sometimes you also need to start writing them down. And you start sort of make playbooks, especially for the more complex stuff you do, to make sure that you do it in the way you learned is the best way consistently. There's always this balance, of course, between making a very complex process that you will find hard to adapt later, and you will find hard to implement. You need to sort of find a balance where it's a powerful but a good enough process, if you know what I mean.
And that's quite interesting. The key question that I was thinking of is, there's a lot of noise out there in the marketplace. There's a lot of people doing lots of things, and it's a very competitive market. So how are you pivoting towards change, and what are you doing that's different from all of the big giants out there, which one big giant is about 3 miles down the road from me. So I'm not going to say it start off with sales and end up with force, but how are you changing? And how are you distinguishing yourself to be different?
Yeah, with that giant, it's not too hard, because their software is really like enterprise software, which isn't very much. It's not a very good fit for small and medium-sized businesses, and we focus on small and medium-sized businesses. That's not very hard. Some other larger players are slightly harder. What we do different is, first, the product. Most CRMs don't really work in the end. They promise you that it's going to work, but then because they put such high expectations on you as a user to do all kinds of stuff, and concretely an enormous amount of data input, for which you then as a user don't get a whole lot in return, That's what our software. That's the reason we started Salesflare actually, because we saw this can all be automated. Like the information that you're inputting can be pulled from all kinds of different systems, and we saw a system that basically does that for you, and you just have to curate it, so that the system already has everything. That's one. Second, we focus very much on making that extremely simple, making the whole experience very understandable, without too many friction points.
Yeah.
It's the focus of, we call it in SaaS onboarding, like software as a service. We call it onboarding. And then it's on building strong relationships, because that's where we get most of our growth from. And as a small company, we can do that because we still have very tight lines, let's say, between customers and product. Where in a larger company, it's much harder to keep this organized. We're at a scale where we can deliver, like, let's say, really good customer service. If you go on g2.com, I think we're second in terms of best customer service of all the CRMs out there. So.
Okay, that's really good. As you say, it's all about relationships. There's something that I'm into big time, and that's I train and coach people to be better relationship builders, because we know that it takes you so much time and effort to gain a customer, but a lot of challenges along the way with a lot of sales professionals out there is they don't maintain the relationship. They go for account executive, account director, and business development, and so on and so forth. So there's lots of touch points, but no one really gets back to that customer. What do you do, and how do you do that, even internally? But how would you advise external sales professionals to do that?
Well, there's a few things that come into play here. First, you need to have the information somewhere. You cannot just rely on what is in your brain. That's never going to work, because you probably have a lot of customers. And plus, if things rotate, like one person switches to another place and then you need to restart all kinds of relationship, and I have no idea where you left off. That's horrible. But it's also about information flowing between departments. For instance, in our case, if customer support / sales, which is the same thing for us, here's something, this goes into a system where both the codes, so the code that the developers write and the conversations with the customers are linked up in one place, which makes that we have a very tight connection there. And even then people say stuff, we use all of it as input to make specs, to then, like, functional specs, technical specs, develop it. And then when it gets developed, we actually communicate back to these customers personally, to all of them, to then ask, okay, is this what you expected? And we close the feedback loop like that, which is, one of the essential processes you can have in a SaaS company, a software as a service company, because that's what it's all about, right? You create a product that people want, and you want to improve it. And relationship-wise, it's also a matter of following up at the right times. We have a big part of that automated, at least our outreach to get in touch again, and then from there we can easily pick up the conversation all the time. A lot of it is very basic when you think about it. It's just taking people seriously is a large part of what makes you successful nowadays.
Of course.
Like when people
thinking while we're talking is salespeople are renowned to take shortcuts, and if you can make their job easier, and if you can make their job simpler without too many touch points, and as Roger Dooley said, I spoke to a few weeks ago, expert in sort of neuromarketing and neuroselling and so on and so forth, if you have the less traction along the way, then it's easier for the person to either buy, or easier for the salespeople to actually be more productive with their time, but with less effort. And that's a key thought, as long as they have the knowledge around them and the research around them, so they're more sort of academically researched based on the clients, and obviously the clients are more sort of receptive to yourself, and they're more up the sort of warm to actually speak to. So yeah, I'll be interested about how you actually do that along the way.
Oh, it's partly about keeping data. It's partly about having a follow-up system and tracking information about people at the right time. And it's partly about just using a bit of empathy, which is something. If you take sales as a sort of how can I say, it's a routine and it's a machine and all that, and if you don't treat every customer with the sort of respect and empathy they deserve, that it's very easy as a company to get in sort of that flow. So you consciously need to stay out of that. But the basics first are getting your data right, keeping it updated, and setting up this follow-up flow. Because the rest from there is just applying your humanity. It's less complex.
Absolutely. And we know now, like, data is king. Like, data really helps the whole process. So based on that, I'm sure you have a little bit of artificial intelligence in there, like everyone does now, learning. How do you see the next 12 months or even the next 5 years? Where do you, if you had a crystal ball, where do you think you might be going?
First of all, there's going to be a lot of consolidation in the space. I'm pretty sure about that. So we've seen a lot of different sales tools out there, and it's all separate tools, and a lot of that just doesn't make sense. So that's going to centralize. We used to think about CRM as if it's a database, but actually it's a sales tool. So hence CRM and sales tools become one, and the sales tools will be absorbed in the CRM most probably. Secondly, what you said, artificial intelligence. A lot of people say there's artificial intelligence in their products. Mostly it's just if statements, let's say, just very simple algorithms. But artificial intelligence, actually, it's going to start happening because the amount of data that's getting organized is just increasing and increasing, and that's the basis for artificial intelligence, is to have that data, to have proper data, to have organized data, a large pool of data, because as soon as you have that, and the artificial intelligence itself is sort of getting ready for it technology wise, you can do all kinds of stuff. So expect to see a lot of new things happening in that space.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm fascinated, but I'm also extremely excited because I know how data really helps the salesperson, and to have the insights and to make it little less frictionless as possible, so they the salespeople can just get on with what they love to do, which is the key thing about getting on the phone or working with the marketing team, so they can get nice leads and so on and so forth. So how would you view success, and what does success mean to you?
Oh, good question. For us, happy customers, first of all. And then secondly, more customers, because you can make customers happier, but if you have more as well, it's the one times the other is success, I would say.
Awesome. So the last question I'm going to ask you, just to throw you out. So if you had a magic pill and you swallowed it and gave you some sort of superpower, what would it be and how do you utilize it? But you only have 5 minutes to have it.
Oof, 5 minutes. I want to give a very lame answer, but I'm not going to do it. Like a pill that gives you the superpower to have other superpowers. You know, that kind of answer. No, good question. I guess a sort of, I mean, if we think about it, what would be the best? It would be for us to all save the world, right? The thing is, we don't really know how. So if I would get a bill and it would give me the insight, and I could write it all down in 5 minutes, and then or after the 5 minutes, maybe I still remember. I have it all written down, and then we can just execute. That would be awesome, I think.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. How can people find out more about you?
If you want to find out more about Salesflare, it's on salesflare.com. It's Flare with Flare. And there you can read about the software. We have a blog with a lot of interesting articles if you're interested. You can also see the software. You can see it even before you connect your emails nowadays. And then there's a trial that has a variable length. As you set it up, you get more days, somewhere up to 30 days. And if you have a bigger team, even more. And if you want to get in touch with me, LinkedIn is probably the best place. You can send me a connection request, but please do include a personal message. Otherwise, I won't be able to know where you're coming from, and you will just disappear in a sea of spam. But if you include a message, I promise you I will get in touch and we can have a chat.
Awesome. So really, thank you so much. You've been listening to the Global Sales Leader podcast. I'm your host, Jason Cooper. I'm the sales relationship coach. So I really help sales professionals sell better and help buyers buy from you in a more of an authentic, integral way, so that you all grow together and you all hit the bottom line together. So thanks so much today. And if you like what you hear today, please share it on all of the podcast channels, iTunes and Spotify. We are also on YouTube as well. So please share the love as well. So thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you. This was fun.